Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is year two, episode 13 of PodTC. We've been doing this for more than a year now. I should say I've been doing this because I feel like I'm the only one who likes talking to all. I'm just joking. But I am joined today by a colleague and a friend of mine, Shawn Wilson. He's an assistant or a senior assistant director here in the Office of Admissions. He works with our visit experience team, orientation team, and really is our head person when it comes to campus tours and a lot of other events on campus. So how's it going, Shawn?
It's going great. Thank you for having me. I was really excited when you reached out. I think it's a really cool thing.
Yeah,
So I'm happy to be here.
yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. You did me a solid for sure. When I was thinking about some of the topics to cover this year or, this season, should we treat it like a show? Maybe.
Yeah, why not?
But this season of PodTC, uh, programming, visit experience, all of that kind of relatively gets lumped together, I think, a lot of times in conversation. And I was trying to think of people around the state that would be really ideal for this. And everyone knows that I do work at Kent State. Obviously, I just said you're my buddy and colleague. So Shawn works at Kent State, and I am showing favoritism right now. But really, I think Shawn has a really unique blend of experiences that can really help us dive into some of these questions, and I would love for him to share that. So, Shawn, could you tell me a little bit about yourself, your name? Obviously, I just spoiled where you work, but maybe where you went to school and how you got into this position.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Shawn Wilson. I am currently Senior Assistant Director at Kent State University on the University Orientation and Visit Experience team. What a mouthful, right? Um, a little bit about my academic journey. So I actually started school at Youngstown State University. It didn't work out for me. I transferred to a community college, Eastern Gateway Community College in Steubenville, Ohio. And then finally, I decided to transfer up here to Kent State, which ironically, I never wanted to go to. I'm actually a fourth generation Kent State alumni. So when I was looking at schools, I wanted nothing to do with Kent State.
Yeah.
But here I am. I'm now the one who works there and the one who sells the university. So I absolutely love it. So my academic journey, I transferred to Kent State. I didn't do orientation because I had too many credit hours. But I kind of treated it as like a first year. I lived in the freshman residence halls as a sophomore. I did the traditional ways to get involved. I lived on campus. I became an RA. And then I went to grad school here at Kent State too. So I have my master's degree here as well. So I have a bachelor's in broadcast journalism, and then a master's in higher education administration and student personnel. My GA-ship was actually working transfer orientation here at Kent State, TKS as we like to call it. So I started, working with transfer students as a grad student, found a passion for it. I worked tirelessly doing the orientation program all year round. I ran the program with Barb Miller-Harris, which some of you may know.
Mhm.
And it really helped kind of give me a different perspective on the enrollment process, the services that were offered for transfer students, and just the attention that was paid to transfer students. At the university, like at the high levels. After that, I moved to Denton, Texas. I worked at the University of North Texas, where I was the transfer center coordinator there. So I worked with transfer students for 3 years down there. What a really kind of unique feature of UNT is they brought in almost as many transfer students as they did freshmen every year.
Yep.
So they averaged around 4,000 new transfer students every year. And my responsibility there was to provide programming to help them with their transition. I offered programming. I helped with orientation. I had a team of students I called my transfer ambassadors that, they served as mentors. They did various things throughout campus throughout the year to help students with their transition. And it was really cool kind of serving students, continuing that passion to work with transfer students. Then that leads me to this career where I got here. I then I didn't transfer as a professional,
Kind
but
of.
I
Yeah.
kind of transferred back to Kent State. I wanted to move back close to home. So I came back to Kent State, started in the admissions office as a senior admissions counselor, where I recruited students from Cuyahoga County and the Cincinnati area, so Southwest Ohio. Was doing that for about a year. And then my current position opened up. I moved over to the events team, and now I run the transfer center here at Kent State, where we see roughly 6,000 annual visitors through the tour center. And if you add that to all of the programs that we do, we see around 14 to 16,000 folks every year through all of our visit programs, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a huge operation. Coming and looking at places around the state, not everyone has dedicated people even to events, period. And they
Right.
might recruit and then do events on the side, or they'll mostly do events, but then they still have other duties as assigned. We're really grateful, or I'm grateful here that at Kent State we have Shawn and then a couple of other people that actually it's their full-time job. And I mean, like we run orientation through the admissions, office overall anymore. So it's a huge, there's a lot of students that move through our campus all the time. Shawn works with students that are transfer students, first year students, a lot of types of students that come through, and he kind of has a good blend of experiences to help them all out. So I think that it'll be a nice dichotomy of different things that we can talk about today, and how really your experience in transfer helps us out because, and maybe, Kent State, generally speaking, like we still have a lot of first year freshmen that come through our
Mhm.
doors, and we love our transfer students, but it's just not as high of a number. And Shawn's able to kind of like take them on and help us out for that. So you kind of blew through my second question with the answer to my first question. But what are some examples of programs that you guys put on where transfer students are invited?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, our daily campus tours are open to any student, whether that's first year, transfer. We get eighth graders who come on them. We also get post undergrad students. We get grad students. So anybody who is interested in Kent State at any level is open and invited to our daily campus tours. Some of our larger scale programs that we do invite transfer students to, these are things like our future flash days, or sorry, not future flash days, our preview KSUs that we do throughout the year. These are kind of very high level introductory programs that allow our potential students to come in, hear about the university, talk to their academic departments, learn more about their majors, visit a resource fair where they can get get an idea of what services we provide here, get a campus tour if they want to, but really start to kind of see themselves as a Kent State student. So that's one of the programs that we have that we open up to our transfer students here at Kent State.
Yeah. And then I know that when we say programming and stuff, we generally think like in-person programming, but Kent State and a lot of other institutions around the state, we have some that are actually mostly online, and we do also have a lot of virtual events.
Mm-hmm.
Transfer students are also invited to those. Would you
Oh yeah.
mind touching on some of the things that you guys do virtually?
Yeah, actually, tonight is our very first Facebook Live event of the
Mhm.
semester, where we talk about the importance of February 1 in the enrollment process. So there will be some transfer students in attendance there. Throughout the year, we offer virtual financial aid sessions, which are great for students of any student type who can come and get those questions answered. And then we also, like on our website, we offer virtual tours. And if students come to campus, they can also do a self-guided tour as well, too. So these are all open to all of our student types. And I know some transfer students, they may want that, they want the experience, right? They come in and they get that similar first year experience, but there's some who they don't want any of it. They just want to do their own thing. And that's where we see a lot of students utilize the
Yeah.
self-guided tour or our virtual tours as well.
Yeah, the self-guided tour specifically, it sounds a bit like a cop out, like here's a little something, go do it yourself. But for the students that might work throughout the week, or they
Mhm.
are juggling family and school and all of that, and they can't make the trip down during the week, and it's a nice weekend here in Northeast Ohio. We have a few of those every
Yeah,
once in a while.
one or two.
Yeah, but the students come, and when they download the app, we know, so we can see, I think generally, right? Like when I was going to say please nod, so I'm like not saying anything that's not true. But we can, when they first log into the app and stuff, we get their info anyway. So we can see who's been on campus. It's a public campus, so I mean, people
Yeah.
are invited. It's very nice, especially in the hotter months out of the year. It's a little slick today, but that's okay.
Well, and that's
Um,
the nice thing about that virtual tour is it's really robust too. It's not just a
yeah.
map. It's GPS tracked where you get on, and as you're walking to and from buildings, it starts talking
Yep.
automatically. It's broken down on the main portion of campus, to the science mall, to front, what we call front campus. And we see, like, we actually just pulled the numbers. We saw about like 650 visitors or clicks, individual downloads last year, which was pretty cool to see.
That's nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, not everyone does that. They might have some info on their website about what to follow along, but it's really nice just to like pop in a headphone and, listen to that as you walk around campus and share that
Mhm.
with your parents or whoever else that you come down with. So,
Agreed.
yeah, very cool. How do you think your prior transfer experience helps you right now in your current role, and then especially the one that requires a lot of attention to, more of the traditional student audience?
Yeah, I think being a transfer student myself, I think it makes me remind myself to be more intentional, whether that's with what I'm presenting, with the content that I'm delivering, with the people that I hire for my roles, right? Um, I always try to, when I think about doing something new or I'm incorporating something new, ask myself, yes, does this work for freshman students? Does this work for graduate students? Does this work for transfer students? Is the content the same? Should I address things differently for each of these populations? And sometimes the answer is yes. And then sometimes the content will be the same. But I think being really intentional, remembering my experience, I think that's helped me with the presentations that I give every day. We talk about applying to Kent State. I always break it down by high school, transfer, graduate. And if there's anybody in those populations, that allows me to specifically identify the process
Hmm.
for those population types.
Right.
Whenever I was hiring my new staff that I hired this year, anytime I had a transfer student who was interested in being a tour guide, I put a little few perks on their resume, on
Mhm.
their application process.
Yeah.
Because it's cool to have that perspective, because I had transfer students this morning on my, or not this morning, but this afternoon on my tour. So it's nice to make sure that they stay in the thought process of while we're planning, while we're making these decisions. And I don't think if I was a transfer student myself, I would probably get lost in the first time in college shuffle, right? I'd be like, that's the
Right.
priority, that's everything, right? But knowing my experience and knowing just how important it is to have someone just see you as a transfer student, I try to be really intentional with incorporating them in any of the things that I do.
Yeah. And I always have to mimic points like that because sometimes it's as little as, if it's in a campus store, you might be in a room with mostly first year freshmen and their parents or whoever wants to come with them. But even sometimes, I know that any one of our students that comes for a tour, they get information, like physical information handed to them and such. And I know you do a good job of always having like the transfer materials on hand as well. And it's sometimes little details like that that just makes a student look at that and not have to wonder, oh, is this scholarship different information? Is this scholarship information different than first year or whatever? And just having very intentional. And I know that when you redid the campus tour presentation and stuff, you reached out for, just context on,
Mhm.
okay, is this different for transfer students? Is this different? And just making sure that students, even if they're not the majority in the room, they at least see themselves up on the screen. And if there's ever a time to link them up with a transfer student or a tour guide who was a transfer student, or seeing them on like an Instagram live as a transfer student, even if it's during like National Transfer Student Week, stuff like that,
Mhm.
it just makes them feel more comfortable being around. Which kind of leads me into my next question. What do you do to make transfer students feel more comfortable in a program that they may not be the most attended student population there?
I think a big thing is the language that we use, right? So a lot of the times when we're at these big programs, we're like, we say things like, this is your first time at college, right? This is your first time. This is your
Yep.
transition from high school. How many are leaving high school, right? So I think being really intentional and just saying, this is your first time here at Kent State, or this is your new phase of your life, right? Because it's not necessarily, when you say like a new phase or the next chapter of your life, addressing that you're leaving
True.
high school, you're leaving the last chapter at your previous institution. So I think the intentionality with the language that we use helps make them not feel excluded, but also like makes them feel like, okay, yeah, cool, like they're talking about me too. When, especially in the morning sessions when we're addressing the large groups of students, like The big thing is just focus on like this new phase, this new Kent State phase, and not necessarily
Right.
like, oh, you're a first time college student, right? Or you just graduated high school. Like, welcome to Kent State. Here's what we do now. So I think the language, the intentionality again is key to making students feel more comfortable.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, and especially on those big visit programs. And, we do something that's it's very campus specific. It's about academic programs, and we
Mhm.
know as transfer people, these are all the same things at our institutions. Really, the mechanical differences are there. And as long as I mean, that's great that you're using transition, language as opposed to, or like class of 2028, things like that. That's very, it's not necessarily alienating to every transfer student. Sometimes it still is the case.
Right,
There are some transfer students that have a year once they transfer. And
right.
when you say class of, where are we at now? 2028? You would know more than I would. Yeah.
I don't know. I try not to think about it.
Yeah. They're technically class of 2025. So it's just, they're different. They're puzzles and they're at different points in the puzzle. So
Mhm.
um, how often do you look to peer institutions regarding our programming here? And do you feel like that's a helpful practice?
Yes, we benchmark probably once a year, typically in the summer. And we benchmark our daily campus tours. We benchmark our admitted student days, our preview days. So like those big yield events. Um, and one of the boxes we check when we're doing this benchmarking is like, do they mention transfer information, right? Yes or no? It's something I'm very proud of that we do here at most
Yeah.
of our stuff. It's always something transfer related. I know the transfer teams at all of our big events that we do, a lot of time it's talking about transfer like credits,
Yep.
but at least there's someone there, right? There's someone there that if they have questions, we can give them to an expert there. And then it's something, like I said, when we're doing our benchmarking, we're really intentional again with making sure that do they do it? How do they do it? Do they do it better than us? And if we think they do it better than us, we kind of take note and see how we can incorporate some of those new practices. But we always like to say we always try to do our benchmarking to see where we match up, because our goal, at least my goal for the transfer center, or not transfer center, the tour center here, is I want to be like a nationally recognized, or the people want to look to me whenever they think tourists, right? That's my goal whenever I'm done with this. And one of that, a step in doing that is making sure every student who comes on a tour feels like the tour is for them, and
Yep.
that includes transfer students, grad students, post grads, guests, everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think that people do look to you, not to toot your own horn, but definitely we've got a big operation and you're at the head of it. You manage a lot of students, and I would never, I don't know if I could do it. That's just a lot to do. You're constantly on your phone trying to keep track of everyone and, helping them out. And they really like you. I know that, as they follow you around downtown Kent and stuff. And
Just
oh,
never ending. I feel like
yeah.
I live life in a fishbowl. It never ends.
Yep. So last big question I have for you, and really I think post-pandemic, a lot of us have been trying to juggle kind of in-person, virtual. What do students maybe like more? What should we kind of like? Because in 2020, 2021, we thought in-person programs are maybe not coming back or
Right.
not in the same capacity. And we've seen maybe that for some students, but a lot of students kind of wanted to get right back to where we were beforehand.
Yeah.
And now at least at Kent State, we're juggling both. But for transfer students specifically, do you think that they prefer in-person, virtual, a mix? Like, what do you think that?
So I think the crazy thing about the transfer student population is you cannot put them all in the same bucket.
Yep.
There will be there are going to be the transfer students that were like me, that wanted that traditional experience, that want the big flashy orientation, that want to go through the similar things, because sometimes they're coming from a small community college to a large Division I university, so they want the big wow factors, right?
Hmm.
Then there'll be other transfer students who might be the same age but just want to just get through it. You'll have adult students who just want to get in, get done, get out, go home, right? So I think it's really hard to say one thing, right? Whether they want virtual, whether they want in person, whether they want the flashy or not flashy, no pun intended with the Kent State. But like I said, I think that's why it is very important to offer a variety of the programming. Now, from the people who put on the programming, that is that's a headache in and of itself, right?
Sure.
The level of work that goes through. But I think providing the opportunity for every student to kind of fill the need that their way, I think is really key, especially for transfer students where this is maybe their second or third, maybe fourth institution that they're trying
Right.
out. And providing the services and delivering them in the way that fits their needs, I think is key to a successful transfer. Um, like I said, everyone thought post COVID everything will be virtual, but I'm seeing a huge increase in in-person tours. I think people want to be in person, but then there are those few that really loved the life behind the screen. So,
Yeah.
like I said, there you can't. It's not a one size fit all answer. And as you know, the president of the Ohio Transfer Council, I'm sure you see this every day in your work. Like you deal probably with a variety of students that want things differently. So you can have the same student on paper, same major, same town, same school, but they could want different things, right? So
Yep.
I think that's kind of the cool thing. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about working with transfer students was the challenge of like seeing how can I best serve this student? Well, how the puzzle will play out that day.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just think providing the opportunities, the variety of opportunities is the best way to serve this population.
Yeah. And that's a great answer, by the way, to, I mean, they are very different. And sometimes I think that the line could almost be drawn on age more than new freshman versus transfer student versus, because you could have a student applying for a graduate program at the age of 22 that might still kind of, they might be going to a new institution. They still want to live in the community and they want to attend in-person classes and meet their classmates and kind of, I had a great experience in my graduate program and that was kind of one of the highlights of it. But then I work with transfer students who are in their 30s, 40s, whatever, and they are looking for quick information. One of the big programs, well, this is one I see a lot for like students that are going back for like a second bachelor's degree for our accelerated nursing program. They do like virtual information nights, and I know that
Yeah.
those always book up real fast all the time. It's a very popular program of theirs, but also that's very much like a I know adult student, it's not my favorite term, but it's a very adult student, heavy program, just given the fact that they already have their bachelor's degree and they're going back for a healthcare degree. So I think it is a heavy burden on you guys.
Yeah.
And that's I think even in we're in 2024 now, we're not all only communicating with students via phone calls or emails.
Right.
We've all started probably incorporating text at this point. We've all started incorporating social media. So we know that for this, prime age student at this point, whether that be 18 or 25, whatever, and I'm the same way. I'm 30, I just turned 32. Like I would not want someone to call me. I would probably want someone to text me if they
Yeah.
needed something from someone. And I don't expect that out of our students. So now that events, I mean, maybe that same concept is sneaking back up on our events teams or our events professionals around the state. So I think it was a good answer,
Yeah.
like I said. And I think that the variety is, I think, again, it's a lot of work, but I think that for students, it's generally you're going to hit the most, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's like kind of going back to like my experience as a student working with the population. Like that's the thing that I found most successful was providing the opportunities where they can. It's a lot of work, but a lot of the time the right work is hard work, right?
Sure.
And if you want to serve your students the best way you can, it takes a lot of energy. But at the end of the day, it's so satisfying. It's so rewarding and fulfilling to know that one of the programs that you did, whether that was something additional you did or an adjustment that you made the difference in a student getting the answers they needed, getting to where you wanted to go, making their transfer process easier, or even just being finally a face to talk to them.
Mhm.
So it's hard work. It's rewarding work. So like I said, it's not for the faint of heart, but when you do it, it'll pay dividends.
Yeah. Is there anything like I'm kind of through my formal questions, but is there anything else that you would want to add to the conversation that you think that could benefit the transfer professionals from around the state?
Yeah, so I think a big thing, one thing I really like that some of our partners do is about once a year, I know Tri-C brings a group of students to our campus to help with that transition. So I'm thinking more for like our smaller, maybe our community college partners that may listen to this podcast, like Be the bridge. If you know that your students or you have a group of students that want to go to a particular institution, try to organize like a group tour. I know, like I said, I work with Tri-C. I have it on my calendar here in the next few weeks. But be that person that helps deliver them where they need to go. Like I said, because there are some that want that first year experience, that college experience, the D1 experience, as I title it sometimes. Um, and they might just not know how to get there, or they might not know where to go. So that's one of the things I think could really benefit the community colleges specifically, is like, if you know you have a population, a pool of students that are going to an institution, maybe not too far away, maybe like within an hour's drive, try to organize a trip, and see how that benefits them in their process, their journey here, or not, maybe not here, but where their journeys individually. I always like seeing that. That's one of the things. So
Yeah, that's a nice thing to add. I didn't even think about that. But another variety to the mix that we were kind of referencing earlier.
absolutely. Do you have any questions for me as far as the visit experience goes or the campus tour
I
goes?
mean, I've been blasting you with questions this whole time. And I think that you've given us really good context about how at least we might look at transfer students going through our visitation programs maybe a little bit differently than some of the other institutions in the state. I know that for some of our institutions that are heavily online at this point, just knowing that students do log in virtually for these types of things, and whether it's an academic session or if it's about campus in general, financial aid is a big thing, big
Mhm.
nights that we do here. Those are always really well attended.
Oh yeah.
Very hot topic, obviously. But even, and for, I guess the last point, because some students you're going to put out 20 barrels and hope that they all land in one of those barrels. And you might still get a few transfer students that still need that very much that individual attention, that want
Yeah.
that one-on-one space with you. So being able to, if it's virtual appointment, if it's an on-campus visit with just one person, I know that that's kind of out of your purview. That's something that more of the transfer team does here. But
Mhm.
just again offering the variety and hoping that you catch as many students as you can. But
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, man. Well, thank you so much for this. I know I gave you a kind of short notice, but you were a trooper and joined me anyway. So like I said, this is our first one of 2024. We're going to try to keep on that monthly schedule as much as possible.
Awesome.
So be on the lookout for another one here in February, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me, John.